She didn't come to the billionaire's mansion to beg. She came for answers about her dying mother. But when 11-year-old Ollie Grant stepped inside and saw her mom's photograph hanging on his wall like a treasured memory, her world shattered in one breath. "Why is my mom's picture in your house?" she demanded. And what Caleb Weston revealed next changed all three of their lives forever. Hello friends, welcome to this story. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Los Angeles, Lagos, maybe London, or Sydney? We want to know. The afternoon heat pressed down on the city streets as Ollie Grant walked alone through a neighborhood she had no business being in. She was only 11 years old, but the weight she carried made her walk like someone much older. Her backpack hung heavy on her thin shoulders, stuffed with a crumpled envelope and a faded photograph. Her throat was dry. Her feet ached from miles of walking, and her stomach had been empty since breakfast. But she didn't stop. Every step she took was for her mother. Maya Dalton was dying. Slowly, quietly, in their one-bedroom apartment across the city, where the rent was overdue and the medicine cabinet sat empty. The doctors said there was treatment. But treatment cost money they didn't have. Ollie had watched her mother grow thinner, weaker, paler, watched her hide the pain behind forced smiles and reassurances that everything will be okay. But Ollie knew better. She'd overheard whispers at the clinic, adults talking in low voices about the richest man in the city, someone powerful and untouchable named Caleb Weston. Someone who supposedly had no heart, no compassion, no time for people like them. But Ollie didn't care about his reputation. If no one else would help her mother, she'd go straight to the top and demand answers herself. Ollie had tried asking for help everywhere else. Neighbors, charities, distant relatives who stopped returning calls. Every door closed. Every promise fell through. She was done waiting for miracles from people who didn't care. So she came here. The streets around her transformed as she walked deeper into the district. The cracked sidewalks gave way to smooth stone pathways lined with sculpted hedges. The sounds of traffic faded, replaced by the soft hum of expensive cars gliding past gated estates. Glass towers reflected the golden afternoon sun, and security cameras watched her from every corner. This wasn't her world. But she kept walking. Then she saw it. The biggest gate she'd ever seen stood before her, black iron bars stretching high into the sky, topped with sharp decorative points. Beyond it sat a mansion so massive it looked like something from a movie. White stone walls, tall arched windows, perfectly trimmed lawns, and fountains that sparkled in the sunlight. Flowers bloomed in colors she couldn't name. Everything about the estate screamed wealth, power, control. But it also felt empty, too quiet, too perfect, like a palace where no one really lived. Ollie stood frozen for a moment, staring up at the mansion. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. Part of her wanted to turn around and run. The other part, the part that remembered her mother coughing blood into a dish towel last night, pushed her forward. She stepped up to the intercom panel mounted on the stone pillar beside the gate and pressed the button. Silence. Seconds dragged by. Ollie thought maybe no one was home. Maybe this whole trip had been for nothing. Then the speaker crackled to life, and a deep, controlled voice spoke. "Who is this?" Ollie cleared her throat, trying to sound braver than she felt. "My name is Ollie Grant. I need to speak to Caleb Weston. It's important. It's about someone He used to know. A long pause. Mr. Weston doesn't take visitors without appointments, the voice replied, cold and dismissive. Please, Ollie said, her voice cracking slightly. It's about Maya Dalton. Tell him that name. Please. Another silence, this one longer, heavier. Then the voice came back, quieter this time, almost uncertain. Wait there. Ollie waited by the gate, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Her hands trembled. She didn't know what she'd say when she saw him. She didn't even know if he'd listen. But she had to try. Minutes crawled by. Then she heard footsteps, steady, deliberate, coming closer on the other side of the gate. The lock buzzed loudly, and the massive iron gate began to swing open with a low, mechanical groan. A man stepped into view. He was tall, dressed in an expensive charcoal suit that looked like it cost more than Ollie's entire apartment. His dark hair was perfectly styled, with hints of silver at the temples, and his face was sharp, handsome, but exhausted, like someone who hadn't truly rested in years. His eyes were what struck her most. They were intense, guarded, and deeply, deeply sad. This was Caleb Weston. He looked down at the small girl standing before him, her worn sneakers, faded jacket, the defiant tilt of her chin, and something flickered across his face. Confusion, recognition, pain. You said the name Maya Dalton, he said slowly, his voice low and measured. How do you know that name? Ollie swallowed hard. She's my mother. Caleb's expression froze. For a moment, he looked like he'd been struck. He opened his mouth, then closed it. When he finally spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. Come inside. Ollie hesitated. Her mother had always warned her never to go into strangers' homes, but this man wasn't exactly a stranger. Not anymore. And the look in his eyes wasn't dangerous. It was broken. She nodded and stepped through the gate. The garden was even more beautiful up close. Roses in deep reds and soft pinks climbed along stone archways. A cobblestone path wound through perfectly manicured lawns toward the mansion's towering front doors. Everything looked like a painting. Flawless, serene, untouched. But it felt lonely. Caleb walked ahead of her in silence, his shoulders tense, his hands clenched at his sides. Ollie followed, her heart racing faster with every step. She didn't know what waited for her inside. She didn't know what answers she'd find, but she was about to find out. Caleb pushed open the heavy front doors, and Ollie stepped into the mansion. She gasped. The entrance hall was massive. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine, a grand staircase curving upward, crystal chandeliers hanging from the vaulted ceiling. Sunlight poured through tall windows, casting golden light across expensive furniture and carefully placed art. And then Ollie saw it. On the wall to her left, in a large silver frame, hung a photograph. It was her mother. But not the mother Ollie knew. Not the tired, sick woman who could barely get out of bed. This was a younger Maya, radiant and glowing, her hair flowing over her shoulders, her smile bright and full of life. She looked happy. She looked loved. Ollie froze, her breath caught in her throat. Her eyes locked onto the photograph, unable to look away. 1,000 questions exploded in her mind all at once. She turned slowly to face Caleb, her voice shaking with confusion, anger, and desperation. Why is my mom's picture in your house? Caleb Weston stared at her, and for the first time in years, the unshakable billionaire looked completely, utterly lost. If you're hooked already, smash that like button. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. What Ollie didn't know yet was that the photograph wasn't just a memory. It was a wound Caleb had carried for over a decade, a reminder of the woman he loved and lost, and the life that was stolen from both of them. And standing in front of him now was living proof that some secrets don't stay buried forever. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Ollie stood frozen in the center of the grand entrance hall, her eyes still locked on the photograph of her mother. Her mind was racing, spinning through 1,000 questions all at once, but her mouth couldn't form a single word. The woman in that frame, young, glowing, radiantly happy, felt like a stranger. Ollie had never seen her mother smile like that. Not once. Caleb Weston stood a few feet away, his jaw tight, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He was a man who controlled boardrooms, commanded billion-dollar empires, and never let anyone see him falter. But right now, staring at this small, defiant girl who had somehow found her way into his home, he looked like the ground had been ripped out from under him. He cleared his throat, the sound sharp in the silence. "How did you get in here?" His voice was cold, controlled, the voice of someone used to asking questions and getting immediate answers. But there was something else underneath it, something shaky, uncertain, like he was trying desperately to hold himself together. Ollie tore her eyes away from the photograph and turned to face him fully. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin. "I pressed the intercom button. I told them my mom's name, and you let me in." Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly. "You shouldn't have been allowed past the gate." "But I was." Ollie's voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "Because you know her. You know my mom." Caleb didn't answer right away. His gaze shifted back to the photograph on the wall, and for just a second, his carefully constructed mask slipped. Pain flickered across his face, raw, deep, and unmistakable. Ollie saw it, and suddenly, all the fear and exhaustion and desperation she'd been carrying for weeks boiled over into anger. "That's my mom," she said, her voice rising. "That's Maya Dalton, and I want to know why her picture is hanging in your house." Caleb's head snapped back toward her. "Maya!" He said the name like it hurt, like speaking it out loud was physically painful. "Maya Dalton." "Yes." Ollie's hands were trembling now, but she didn't care. "That's her. That's my mom. And she's dying." The word hung in the air between them, heavy and final. Caleb's face went pale. "What?" "She's sick," Ollie continued, her voice cracking. "She's been sick for months. She can't work. We can't afford her medicine. We can barely afford food. And nobody will help us." Caleb took a step closer, his composure cracking further. "What do you mean she's sick? What's wrong with her?" "I don't know." Ollie's voice broke completely now, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. "The doctors use big words I don't understand. All I know is that she's getting weaker. She tries to hide it from me, but I see it. Every single day she gets a little worse. And I came here because—" She stopped, choking on the words. "Because why?" Caleb's voice was softer now, almost gentle. Ollie wiped her eyes roughly with the back of her hand. "Because you owe her something. I don't know what. But there has to be a reason her picture is on your wall. There has to be a reason you let me in when I said her name." Caleb stood very still. His hands had unclenched, and he was staring at Ollie with an expression she couldn't read. Shock, grief, something that looked almost like fear. "How old are you?" he asked suddenly. The question caught Ollie off guard. "What?" "How old are you?" Caleb repeated, his voice urgent now. 11. Why does that? Caleb's breath hitched. His eyes widened, and he took another step back, as if the answer had physically struck him. He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style, and turned away from her. For a moment, he just stood there, his back to Ollie, his shoulders tense. 11, he muttered, almost to himself. 11 years old. Ollie watched him, confused and frustrated. What does my age have to do with anything? Caleb didn't answer. He was doing calculations in his head, she could tell. Counting back, comparing timelines, realizing something that was making his hands shake. Where is she? Caleb turned back around, his voice sharp with urgency. Where is Maya now? At home, in our apartment across the city. Ollie's eyes narrowed. What does she do for work? When did she get sick? How long have you lived in this city? The questions came rapid fire now, and Caleb's professional mask was completely gone. He looked desperate, almost frantic. She worked at a grocery store until a few months ago, Ollie said slowly, trying to keep up. She got too sick to keep going. We've lived here my whole life, in the same apartment. Why are you asking me all this? Caleb pressed his palms against his temples, like his head was pounding. And she never told you about me? I didn't even know you existed until yesterday, Ollie said. I heard someone at the clinic mention your name. They said you were the richest man in the city, that you could help anyone if you wanted to, so I came. The richest man in the city, Caleb repeated bitterly. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. And she never said anything. All these years, and she never what? Ollie demanded. You keep talking like you knew her, like she was important to you. But if that's true, then why didn't you help her? Why is she dying alone in a tiny apartment while you live here in this palace? Caleb flinched like she'd slapped him. You don't understand, he said quietly. Then make me understand. Ollie's voice echoed through the massive hall. What were you to my mom? Caleb stared at her, really looked at her for the first time. Her eyes, Maya's eyes, the shape of her face, the stubborn set of her jaw, the same fierce determination Maya had always carried, even when the world tried to beat it out of her. Caleb's voice faltered. It's complicated. Everything's complicated, Ollie shouted. But my mom is dying, and you're standing here with her picture on your wall like she's some kind of memory you get to keep while she's out there suffering. I didn't know. Caleb's voice rose to match hers. I didn't know she was sick. I didn't know where she was. I didn't know about... He stopped abruptly, his eyes dropping to Ollie again. The unspoken words hung between them. Ollie felt something cold settle in her stomach. Didn't know about what? Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it. He turned away again, walked a few steps toward the windows, then stopped. His shoulders sagged, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. About you. The words hit Ollie like a punch to the chest. What? Caleb turned back around, and his eyes were wet. I didn't know Maya had a daughter. I didn't know you existed. The room felt like it was spinning. Ollie grabbed the edge of a nearby table to steady herself. Why would you need to know? Caleb's face crumpled. For a moment, the powerful CEO disappeared entirely, replaced by a man who looked utterly broken. Because 11 years ago, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Maya vanished from my life without a word. No explanation. No goodbye. One day she was there, and the next she was just gone. I looked for her. God, I looked everywhere. I hired people, followed every lead, chased every rumor, but it was like she'd disappeared off the face of the earth. Ollie felt her legs go weak. Why would you do all that for her? Because I couldn't let her go, Caleb said simply. Because losing her destroyed me. Because every day for the past 11 years, I've wondered what I did wrong, what I could have done differently, how I could have saved what we had. What did you have? Ollie whispered. Caleb looked at the photograph on the wall, then back at Ollie, and suddenly she saw it. The resemblance she'd been too upset to notice before. The shape of his jaw was like hers. The way he stood. The stubborn tilt of his head when he was trying not to show emotion. What were you to my mom? Ollie asked again, her voice barely audible now. Caleb took a shaky breath. He looked at this 11-year-old girl, Maya's daughter, who had walked across the city alone, who had demanded answers from a man everyone else was too afraid to approach, who had her mother's eyes and her mother's fire. And he finally told her the truth. Your mother, he said, his voice breaking. She wasn't just someone I knew. He paused, and a tear slid down his cheek. I loved her. This story is about to get even more intense. If you're feeling the emotion right now, hit that subscribe button so you never miss stories like this. And tell us in the comments, do you think Maya should have told Caleb about Ollie from the beginning? We want to hear your honest thoughts. The words hung in the air between them, changing everything. Ollie stared at him, her mind struggling to process what he'd just said. She thought of her mother, pale and weak in their tiny apartment. She thought of this mansion, this man, this photograph of a woman who looked happy in a way Ollie had never seen. And she thought of herself, 11 years old, the same amount of time since Maya had vanished from Caleb's life. You loved her, Ollie repeated slowly. Yes, and she disappeared 11 years ago. Yes, and you never found her. No. Ollie looked up at Caleb Weston, this powerful, wealthy, broken man who kept her mother's photograph on his wall like a shrine. And one more question formed on her lips, the question that would change all three of their lives forever. Then why didn't she tell you about me? The silence that followed Ollie's question was deafening. Caleb stood frozen, staring at her with an expression that looked like someone had just shown him his entire life from a completely different angle. His mouth opened, then closed. His hands trembled at his sides. I think, he said finally, his voice hoarse, we should sit down. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked toward a set of tall wooden doors at the far end of the entrance hall. Ollie hesitated for only a moment before following him, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Caleb led her into a massive library. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 3 walls, filled with leather-bound volumes and framed photographs. A large mahogany desk sat near the windows, and leather armchairs were arranged around a fireplace that looked like it had never been used. Everything in the room was perfectly organized, perfectly clean, perfectly empty of life. Caleb walked to one of the bookshelves and pulled down a small wooden box. He carried it to the desk and set it down carefully, like it was made of glass. Then he just stood there, staring at it. What is that? Ollie asked quietly. Memories, Caleb said. Everything I kept of her. He opened the box slowly. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, along with small trinkets, folded notes, a dried flower pressed between two pieces of glass. Ollie moved closer, drawn by curiosity, and something else she couldn't name. Caleb pulled out a photograph and held it up to the light. It showed a younger version of him, maybe late 20s, less gray in his hair, less weight in his eyes, standing next to Maya. They were at some kind of park, standing under a tree. Maya was laughing at something off camera, and Caleb was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "We met at a coffee shop," Caleb said softly, still staring at the photo. "I was working on a business proposal, stressed out of my mind, drowning in paperwork. She was a waitress there. She brought me my 5th cup of coffee and told me I looked like I needed sleep more than caffeine." Despite everything, Ollie felt the corner of her mouth twitch. That sounded like her mom. "I told her I didn't have time for sleep," Caleb continued. "She said that's what all important people say right before they collapse. Then she brought me a sandwich and refused to take no for an answer." He set the photo down and picked up another one. This one showed them at a beach, both soaking wet, Maya holding up a seashell like a trophy. "She was different from everyone else in my life," Caleb said. "Everyone around me wanted something, business connections, money, status, but Maya, she didn't care about any of that. She didn't even know who I was at first. When she found out I was running a tech startup that was about to go public, she just shrugged and said, 'That's nice. Does it make you happy?'" Caleb laughed quietly, but it was a sad sound. "No one had ever asked me that before, whether I was happy." Ollie watched him carefully. This wasn't the cold, intimidating billionaire from the gate. This was someone completely different. Someone broken. "We started meeting in secret," Caleb said. "My mother hated the idea of me dating someone ordinary. My business partner said it would hurt my image, that I needed to be with someone from the right family, the right background. But I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe." He pulled out more photos. Maya and Caleb at a street fair. Maya and Caleb in front of a tiny restaurant. Maya and Caleb sitting on a rooftop, watching the sunset. "She made me better," Caleb said, his voice cracking. "Before her, I was all business, cold, calculating. She taught me that there was more to life than profit margins and stock prices. She talked about dreams, not just goals. About living, not just surviving." "She still does that," Ollie said quietly. "Even when she's sick. Even when we have nothing. She still talks about dreams." Caleb's eyes filled with tears. He looked away quickly, wiping them with the back of his hand. "We were together for almost 2 years," he continued. "2 of the best years of my life. I was planning to propose. I'd already bought the ring, and then one day she just stopped." "Stopped what?" "Everything. She stopped answering my calls, stopped replying to my texts. I went to her apartment, but she was gone. No forwarding address, no note, nothing. It was like she'd vanished into thin air." Ollie frowned. "That doesn't make sense. My mom wouldn't just—" "I know," Caleb interrupted. "That's what I told myself too. That's why I kept searching. I hired private investigators. The best ones money could buy. They followed every lead. Checked hospitals, employment records, rental agreements. But it was like Maya Dalton had ceased to exist." He pulled out a folder from the box, thick with papers. "These are the reports. Years of them. Dead end after dead end. I changed my phone number twice, thinking maybe she'd lost it and was trying to reach me. I kept the coffee shop on retainer for 3 years, paying them extra just to let me know if she ever came back. But she never did, Ollie said. No, she never did. Caleb's voice was hollow. Eventually, I had to accept that she'd made her choice. That for whatever reason, she didn't want to be found, so I stopped looking. I threw myself into work, built my company into an empire, made more money than I could ever spend, and became exactly the kind of person Maya had tried to save me from being. He gestured around the empty library, the cold mansion, the perfect loneliness of it all. This is what I became without her. Ollie looked at the photos spread across the desk. Her mother, young and happy. This man, looking at her like she was his whole world. And suddenly, pieces started clicking together in her mind. They were together for almost 2 years. Then Maya vanished 11 years ago. And Ollie was 11 years old. Her breath caught in her throat. The math was impossible to ignore. When exactly did she leave? Ollie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Caleb thought for a moment. It was early March, 11 years and 8 months ago. Wait. Ollie's hands started shaking. My birthday is in November. I just turned 11. She watched the realization dawn on Caleb's face. His eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. If she left in March, Ollie continued, the words tumbling out faster now, and I was born 8 months later, that means… She was pregnant, Caleb finished, his voice barely audible. She was pregnant when she disappeared. The room felt like it was spinning. Ollie gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. Everything she thought she knew about her life was crumbling around her. Did she ever mention my father? Caleb asked urgently. Did she ever tell you anything about him? No, Ollie said. Whenever I asked, she just said he wasn't in the picture, that it was just me and her, that we didn't need anyone else. Caleb pressed his hands against the desk, his head bowed. She never told me. All this time, and she never… Ollie stared at him, really looked at him, the shape of his jaw, the way he stood, the stubborn tilt of his head when he was trying not to show emotion. Things she'd seen in the mirror her entire life. The question came out before she could stop it, trembling and terrified. Are you my father? Caleb's head snapped up. He looked at Ollie, this brave, fierce girl who'd walked across the city alone, who'd demanded answers from a stranger, who had Maya's eyes and Maya's fire, and maybe, just maybe, his own stubborn determination. I don't know, he said, and his voice was shaking. I don't know for sure, but you think you might be. Caleb took a shaky breath. He looked at the photos on the desk, then back at Ollie. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper, but every word hit like a thunderclap. If your mother was pregnant when she left, if that's why she disappeared, if she was carrying my child and I never knew… He stopped, overcome with emotion. A tear slid down his cheek. Then yes, he finished, his voice breaking completely. Then yes, I might be. The words hung in the air between them, changing everything. Ollie stood frozen, staring at this man who might be her father. This billionaire who'd kept her mother's photograph like a shrine. This broken person who'd spent 11 years searching for the woman he loved, never knowing she'd been raising his daughter alone. And somewhere across the city, Maya Dalton lay sick and dying, carrying secrets that had torn 3 lives apart. The silence in the library stretched on for what felt like hours, though it was probably only seconds. Ollie stared at Caleb Weston, the man who might be her father, and felt her entire world tilting sideways. Her legs felt weak. Her hands were shaking, and somewhere deep in her chest, a small, fragile hope was starting to bloom alongside the fear and confusion. "I need to go home," she said suddenly, her voice cracking. "I need to talk to my mom." Caleb nodded slowly, like he was moving through water. "Yes, of course. I'll drive you." "No." The word came out sharper than Ollie intended. "I mean, not yet. I need to talk to her first, alone." Caleb looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Ollie's expression stopped him. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. His hands were still shaking as he extracted several bills and held them out to her. "For a taxi," he said. "Please, don't walk all the way back across the city." Ollie hesitated, then took the money. It was more than she'd ever held in her life, enough to buy her mother's medicine for a month, maybe 2. "And this." Caleb pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "My personal number. Call me, anytime, day or night. If your mother needs anything, medicine, doctors, anything, you call me immediately." Ollie took the card, staring at the elegant black lettering on one side and his hastily scrawled phone number on the other. "Where do you live?" Caleb asked. "I need to know where Maya is. I need to—" He stopped, his voice breaking. "I need to see her." Ollie looked up at him. This powerful man, this billionaire CEO, looked completely broken. Part of her wanted to protect her mother from whatever pain this reunion might bring. But another part, the part that had just learned she might have a father after 11 years of believing she had no one, couldn't keep the secret any longer. "West Side District," she said quietly. "The Riverside Apartments. Building C, Unit 2B." Caleb's eyes widened slightly. Riverside was one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city, known for its crumbling buildings and desperate residents. The contrast between his mansion and her home couldn't have been more stark. "I'll come," he started to say. "Not yet," Ollie interrupted. "Please, give me a few hours. Let me talk to her first. She doesn't even know I came here. If you just show up—" Caleb nodded reluctantly. "A few hours, but then I'm coming. Nothing is going to stop me from seeing her again." Not after 11 years. Ollie clutched the money and the card in her fist and turned to leave. But at the library door, she stopped and looked back. "If you really are my father," she said, her voice small, "why didn't she tell you? Why would she keep that from you?" Caleb's face crumpled. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." The taxi ride back across the city felt both too long and too short. Ollie watched the neighborhoods transform through the window, from pristine estates to comfortable suburbs to struggling commercial districts to, finally, the gray, tired streets of West Side. The Riverside Apartments looked even more depressing after seeing Caleb's mansion. The building was a 5-story concrete block with peeling paint, rusted fire escapes, and windows patched with cardboard. Trash littered the small courtyard, and the smell of mold and garbage hung thick in the air. This was home. Ollie climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. The elevator had been broken for 3 years, and stopped outside Unit 2B. Her hand trembled as she turned the doorknob. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it that morning. A single room that served as kitchen, living room, and bedroom, with a tiny bathroom off to the side. The couch where her mother slept was pushed against one wall, covered in worn blankets. Medicine bottles crowded the small table beside it, along with unpaid bills stacked in precarious towers. The window looked out onto a brick wall 3 feet away. Maya was on the couch, propped up on pillows, wrapped in an old cardigan, despite the warm afternoon. She looked impossibly thin, her cheeks hollow, dark circles under her eyes. But when she saw Ollie, her face brightened with a smile that hurt to see. "Baby, you're back. How was your day?" Maya's voice was weak, but trying hard to sound cheerful. "Did you eat something? There's some bread in the—" "Mom!" Ollie closed the door and leaned against it. "I need to talk to you." Something in Ollie's tone made Maya straighten up, worry flooding her features. "What's wrong? What happened?" "I went somewhere today," Ollie said slowly. "Somewhere I shouldn't have gone, but I was desperate. I needed help for you, and nobody else would listen, so I—" "Ollie, what did you do?" "I went to see someone rich, someone I thought might help us." Ollie took a deep breath. "His name is Caleb Weston." The effect was immediate and devastating. All the color drained from Maya's face. Her eyes went wide with shock, and something that looked like terror. The book she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. "What?" The word came out barely above a whisper. "Caleb Weston," Ollie repeated. "The billionaire, the CEO. I heard someone mention him at the clinic, so I looked up his address and I went to his mansion and No." Maya tried to sit up straighter, but started coughing violently. Ollie rushed over, helping her take a sip of water. When the coughing subsided, Maya grabbed Ollie's arm with surprising strength. "Tell me you didn't. Tell me you didn't go there." "I did, Mom. And I found something." Ollie pulled out her phone and showed her a picture she'd secretly taken of the photograph in Caleb's entrance hall. "I found this." Maya stared at her own image, young, happy, loved, and tears started streaming down her face. "That's you," Ollie said, her voice shaking. "In his house, your picture, like you were someone important to him. And when I asked him why, he told me—" She paused, swallowing hard. "He told me he loved you, that you disappeared 11 years ago, that he spent years looking for you." "No," Maya whispered, shaking her head. "No, that's not what happened." "Then what did happen?" Ollie knelt beside the couch, looking directly into her mother's eyes. "Because he thinks you left him without a word. And I'm 11 years old, Mom. I can do the math." Maya's breath hitched. She covered her mouth with one hand, her whole body trembling. "Is he my father?" Ollie asked, the question hanging in the air like a bomb. "Is Caleb Weston my father?" For a long moment, Maya said nothing. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, he is." The confirmation, even though Ollie had suspected it, hit her like a physical blow. "Then why?" Her voice broke. "Why didn't you tell him? Why didn't you tell me? Why did we live like this when he was out there? When he could have helped us? Because I thought he didn't want us." Maya's voice rose, then cracked into sobs. "I thought he'd chosen his perfect life over me. Over us. But he said he looked for you. He said he never stopped. That's not what I was told." Maya wiped her eyes roughly. "Ollie, you have to understand. When I found out I was pregnant, I tried to tell him. I went to his office building, but his business partner stopped me at the reception desk. A man named Richard Crane. He said Caleb didn't want to see me, that he'd moved on. But that doesn't—" "He said Caleb was engaged," Maya continued, her voice hollow with old pain. "To someone from a wealthy family, someone appropriate for a CEO. He said Caleb had called me a mistake, that I was an embarrassment he needed to leave behind." Ollie felt anger burning in her chest. "And you believed him?" "I tried not to," Maya said desperately. "I tried calling Caleb, but his number had been changed. I tried going back to places we used to meet, but he was never there. I sent emails that bounced back. And then Richard showed up at my apartment with an envelope full of cash and told me to take it and leave town quietly. He said if I tried to contact Caleb again, they'd make sure I never saw him anyway, that I'd just embarrass myself. "So you took the money and ran," Ollie said, unable to keep the accusation out of her voice. "I didn't take the money," Maya said fiercely. "I threw it in his face, but I did leave. I moved across town, changed my phone number, got a new job, because I believed Caleb had abandoned me, and I was pregnant and alone and terrified, and I didn't know what else to do." Ollie sat back on her heels, trying to process everything. But if that's true, if someone lied to you, then Caleb never knew. He never knew about me. "I know that now," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "But back then, I was young and scared and heartbroken, and every day that went by made it harder to reach out. What if Richard was right? What if Caleb really didn't want me? What if he rejected our baby? I couldn't risk that, Pin. I couldn't risk you being rejected. So instead you hid me from my father for 11 years, Ollie said quietly. Maya's face crumpled. I was trying to protect you. I thought we were better off alone than with someone who didn't want us. But he did want you, Ollie said. He still does. Mom, he's been carrying your picture around for 11 years. He kept all your photos, all your notes. He said you were the best thing that ever happened to him. He said he never stopped looking for you. Maya buried her face in her hands, her whole body shaking with sobs. What have I done? Oh, God, what have I done? Ollie felt torn between anger and sympathy. She wanted to be furious at her mother for keeping this secret, for making them live in poverty when they had family who could help. But she also saw the fear and regret in Maya's eyes, the same fear Ollie had felt standing at Caleb's gate. He wants to see you, Ollie said finally. I gave him our address. Maya's head snapped up. You what? He deserves to know the truth, Mom, and you deserve to tell him yourself, to explain what happened. Ollie, you don't understand. If he finds out about you, he might try to take you away. He has money, power, lawyers. He's not going to take me away, Ollie said firmly. He didn't even know I existed until 2 hours ago. And when I told him about you being sick, he looked like his world had ended all over again. He's not the enemy, Mom. Whoever lied to you, that person is the enemy. Maya started to respond, but a harsh coughing fit overtook her. She doubled over, and Ollie saw blood on the tissue when Maya pulled it away from her mouth. Mom! I'm fine, Maya gasped, but she clearly wasn't. Her breathing was labored, her face pale and sweaty. You need to go to the hospital, Ollie said urgently. We can't afford, Caleb said he'd pay for anything. Medicine, doctors, whatever you need. I don't want his charity, Maya said stubbornly, even as another coughing fit racked her body. It's not charity. He's my father. He's your... Ollie trailed off, not sure what to call the relationship. Whatever you were to each other, you were something, and he still cares. I could see it in his eyes, Mom. When I said your name, he looked like I'd brought a ghost back to life. Maya closed her eyes, fresh tears leaking out. I can't see him, not like this. Not after everything. You might not have a choice, Ollie said quietly, because I think he's coming here whether you're ready or not. As if on cue, there was a sharp knock at the apartment door. Both of them froze. Maya's eyes went wide with panic. Ollie, don't! But Ollie was already moving toward the door. Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew, somehow, who was on the other side. She turned the doorknob and pulled the door open. And there, standing in the dim hallway of the Riverside Apartments, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit, was Caleb Weston. His eyes met Ollie's first, then moved past her to the small, shabby apartment beyond, to the medicine bottles, the unpaid bills, the worn furniture, and finally, to the woman on the couch. The woman he'd loved, the woman he'd lost. The woman he'd spent 11 years searching for. "Maya," he breathed, and the single word carried 11 years of longing, pain, and love. Maya stared back at him, her face a mixture of shock, fear, and something that looked almost like hope. Nobody moved, and in that frozen moment, 3 lives that had been torn apart by lies were finally, impossibly, brought back together. The world seemed to stop. Caleb Weston stood in the doorway of the tiny apartment, and for a moment he couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything except stare at the woman on the couch, Maya. After 11 years of searching, of wondering, of carrying her memory like an open wound, there she was, real, alive, and completely different from the woman he remembered. The Maya in his memories was vibrant, full of life, with bright eyes and a smile that could light up a room. The woman on the couch looked like a shadow of that person. She was thin, too thin, with hollow cheeks and dark circles under her eyes. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and even from the doorway, Caleb could see how much effort it took for her just to sit upright. But her eyes, God, her eyes were still the same, wide and shocked, and filled with 1,000 emotions he couldn't name. "Maya," he said again, his voice barely above a whisper. He took a step into the apartment, and his expensive shoes scraped against the worn linoleum floor. Maya opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She just stared at him like he was a ghost, like he couldn't possibly be real. Ollie stood between them, looking from her mother to her father and back again. The tension in the room was so thick it felt hard to breathe. "Mom," Ollie said quietly. "He came to talk." "I can see that," Maya managed, her voice hoarse. She tried to straighten up, tried to smooth down her hair, tried to look like anything other than what she was. A dying woman in a one-room apartment that smelled of mold and medication. Caleb's eyes swept the apartment, taking in everything. The peeling wallpaper, the single window looking out at a brick wall, the stack of unpaid bills on the table, the dozen medicine bottles, the worn blankets, the complete and utter poverty of it all. His face went pale. "You've been living like this?" The question came out sharper than he intended, and Maya flinched. "Not all of us have mansions," she said, and there was a defensive edge to her voice. "That's not what I—" Caleb stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "Maya, I've been looking for you for 11 years. 11 years. And you've been here? In this city? Living in this? I didn't know you were looking," Maya shot back. "I thought you'd moved on. I thought you didn't want to be found." "Didn't want to—" Caleb's voice rose, then he caught himself, lowered it with visible effort. "Why would you think that? Why would you ever think I didn't want you?" "Because that's what I was told," Maya's voice cracked. "Your business partner, Richard Crane, he told me you'd moved on, that you were engaged, that I was an embarrassment you needed to leave behind." Caleb went very still. Richard told you what? He said you called me a mistake. Maya's eyes filled with tears. He said you were marrying someone from a wealthy family, someone appropriate for a CEO. He said if I tried to contact you again, you'd just have security throw me out. I never said any of that. Caleb's voice was cold now, dangerously quiet. I was never engaged. I never called you a mistake. And I sure as hell never told Richard to say anything to you. Maya stared at him, confusion and hope and fear all warring on her face. But he showed me your new phone number. He said you'd changed it so I couldn't call you. I did change my number, Caleb said, because I was getting constant calls from reporters after my company went public. I sent you the new number in a text and an email, and I left a note at the coffee shop where we met. I never got any of those, Maya whispered. Because someone made sure you didn't, Caleb said, and his hands were clenched into fists now. Someone intercepted them. Someone fed you lies and kept us apart. The realization hung in the air between them, devastating in its implications. Richard, Maya said, the name bitter on her tongue. Richard, Caleb confirmed. He never wanted me with you. He said you were bad for my image, that I needed to date someone from the right social circles. I told him to go to hell, but clearly, he didn't listen. He came to my apartment, Maya said, her voice shaking. After I found out I was pregnant, he brought an envelope full of cash and told me to take it and leave town quietly. He said, she stopped, swallowing hard. He said, if I tried to tell you about the baby, you'd deny it was yours. That you'd call me a gold digger and ruin my life. Caleb looked like he'd been punched in the chest. And you believed him. I was 23 years old, and pregnant, and terrified. Maya's voice rose, then she started coughing. Harsh, painful coughs that shook her whole body. Ollie rushed to her side, grabbing a tissue and pressing it to her mother's mouth. When Maya pulled it away, there were spots of blood on the white paper. Caleb saw it and went even paler. How long have you been coughing up blood? It's nothing, Maya said weakly. It's not nothing. Caleb crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling beside the couch. Maya, you need to be in a hospital. You need doctors, treatment. I can't afford a hospital, Maya said. Do you think I haven't tried? Do you think I want to die in this apartment while my daughter watches? Then let me help, Caleb's voice broke. Let me pay for treatment, for the best doctors, for whatever you need. I don't want your charity, Maya said stubbornly, even as another coughing fit hit her. It's not charity, Caleb was practically shouting now. You're the mother of my child. You're... He stopped, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. You're the woman I never stopped loving. Maya's breath caught. She stared at him, tears streaming down her face. You destroyed me when you left, Caleb continued, his own eyes wet now. I looked for you everywhere. I hired the best investigators money could buy. I followed every lead, chased every rumor. And when I couldn't find you, I thought you'd chosen to leave. That I'd done something wrong. That I wasn't enough for you. You were everything, Maya whispered. You were everything to me. And I thought you'd thrown me away. I would never have thrown you away. Caleb reached out, his hand hovering over hers, but not quite touching, like he was afraid she'd disappear if he made contact. Never, not in a million years. Stop! Ollie's voice cut through the emotion. Both adults turned to look at her, seeming to remember for the first time that she was there. Both of you, just stop. She stood between them, her young face fierce and determined. You're both angry at the wrong person, Ollie said. Someone lied to you. Someone kept you apart. Someone made it so my mom raised me alone in poverty, while my dad spent 11 years thinking she'd abandoned him. That person is the one you should be angry at, not each other." Caleb and Maya looked at each other, and something in their expressions shifted. The anger drained away, replaced by shared grief for all the time they'd lost. "She's right," Maya said quietly. "We were both victims of the same lies." "Richard Crane," Caleb said, and his voice was ice. "He's going to answer for what he did. I'll make sure of it." "Later," Ollie interrupted. "Right now, Mom needs to see a doctor." As if to emphasize her point, Maya started coughing again, harder this time. She doubled over, and when she tried to catch her breath, it came in short, painful gasps. "That's it," Caleb said firmly. He stood up and pulled out his phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." "No," Maya protested weakly. "I can't. The bills?" "I don't care about the bills," Caleb said. "Maya, look at me." She did, her eyes frightened and exhausted. "I already lost you once," Caleb said, his voice shaking. "I spent 11 years not knowing where you were. Not knowing if you were safe, not knowing that you'd had my daughter and were raising her alone. I won't lose you again. Not to pride, not to money, and certainly not to whatever illness is killing you. Do you understand me?" Maya's lip trembled. "Caleb, I won't lose you," he repeated, and there were tears running down his face now. "Not while there's still a chance to save you. Not while our daughter needs her mother. Not while I—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "Not while I still love you." The words hung in the air, raw and honest, and impossible to take back. Maya started crying in earnest then, deep, sobbing cries that shook her fragile body. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have tried harder to reach you. I should have trusted you more. I should have—" "Shh," Caleb said gently. He finally let himself touch her, his hand covering hers. "We'll have time to talk about all of this, but right now, we need to get you to a hospital." "I'm scared," Maya whispered. "I know. I'm scared too." Caleb squeezed her hand. "But I'm not leaving. Not this time. Whatever happens, we face it together." Ollie watched them, her heart feeling too big for her chest. For the first time in her life, she saw what her mother must have looked like when she was happy. And for the first time, she understood what it meant to have a father. "Okay," Maya said finally, her voice barely audible. "Okay, hospital." Caleb nodded and immediately started making calls. Within minutes, he'd arranged for a private ambulance and the best doctors at the city's top hospital. He moved with the efficiency of someone used to commanding resources, but his eyes never left Maya. As they waited for the ambulance, Caleb helped Maya to her feet. She was so weak she could barely stand, and he had to support most of her weight. Ollie grabbed her mother's cardigan and the bag with her medicines. Maya leaned heavily against Caleb, her face pressed against his chest. And then, so quietly Ollie almost didn't hear it, she whispered, "If you'd known about Ollie, if you'd known I was pregnant when I disappeared, would you have stayed?" Caleb looked down at her, then over at Ollie, his eyes full of love and regret and fierce determination. "Nothing could have made me leave," he said, his voice absolute and unwavering. "Nothing in this world could have made me leave you. Either of you." And in that moment, standing in the tiny, shabby apartment that smelled of medicine and desperation, 3 broken pieces of a family finally began to fit back together. The private ambulance pulled up to the emergency entrance of St. Catherine's Memorial Hospital. the most prestigious medical facility in the city. Caleb had made 3 phone calls during the ride, and by the time they arrived, a team of doctors was already waiting. Maya was whisked away on a gurney, too weak to protest, surrounded by nurses and physicians calling out medical terms Ollie didn't understand. Caleb tried to follow, but a nurse gently stopped him. "Sir, we need to run tests and stabilize her first. You can see her once she's been admitted to a room. It shouldn't be more than an hour." Caleb looked like he wanted to argue, but Ollie touched his arm. "Let them help her," she said quietly. He nodded reluctantly and watched until Maya disappeared through a set of double doors. Then he stood there in the bright hospital corridor, looking lost and vulnerable despite his expensive suit. "Come on," Ollie said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. "We should sit down." Caleb let her lead him to the waiting area, a surprisingly comfortable space with cushioned chairs and soft lighting. Nothing like the harsh, fluorescent-lit waiting rooms Ollie had sat in during her mother's previous hospital visits. This was clearly the VIP section of the hospital, a place where wealthy people came when they needed medical care. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Caleb kept checking his phone, then putting it down, then checking it again. Ollie watched him, this stranger who was also her father, and tried to figure out what she was supposed to say. "When did you last eat?" Caleb asked suddenly. Ollie blinked. I don't remember. This morning, maybe?" "What did you have?" "Half a piece of toast." "We were out of everything else." Caleb's jaw tightened. He stood up abruptly. "Wait here." He disappeared down the corridor, and Ollie sat alone with her thoughts. Everything had happened so fast. Finding Caleb's mansion, discovering the photograph, learning about her father, bringing him to her mother, rushing to the hospital. She felt like she'd lived an entire lifetime in one day. Caleb returned 15 minutes later, carrying 2 paper bags that smelled incredible. He set them on the table between the chairs and started pulling out containers. "I wasn't sure what you liked," he said, "so I got a variety. There's chicken pasta, a burger with fries, a sandwich, some fruit, chocolate cake. You bought all of this from the hospital cafeteria?" Ollie stared at the spread. "I had my assistant order from a restaurant nearby and have it delivered." Caleb opened the pasta container and handed her a fork. "Eat, please." Ollie took the fork and the container, and when she took the first bite, she almost cried. Real food. Hot, delicious, filling food. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until that moment. Caleb sat down and watched her eat, something soft and sad in his expression. "Tell me about her," he said after a moment. "Tell me about Maya, about your life together." Ollie swallowed her bite of pasta. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. I missed 11 years. I want to know all of it." So Ollie told him. She told him about the tiny apartment, about her mother working double shifts at the grocery store to make rent, about how Maya would skip meals so Ollie could eat, about the times they couldn't afford heat in the winter and would huddle together under every blanket they owned, about her mother's smile, even when things were terrible, about the bedtime stories Maya would tell, stories about adventures and far-off places they'd never been able to visit. "She never let me feel poor," Ollie said. "Even when we had nothing, she made it feel like we had everything we needed because we had each other." Caleb's hands were shaking. He pressed them together, his knuckles white. "She shouldn't have had to do that alone. You shouldn't have had to live like that. If I'd known, but you didn't know," Ollie said. "Because someone made sure you didn't." "Richard Crane," Caleb said the name like a curse. my business partner. He had access to everything, my phone, my emails, my calendar. He knew Maya's contact information. He could have intercepted my messages to her. He could have changed my number and never told her the new one. He could have— Caleb stopped, his face contorted with rage and grief. He could have destroyed our entire lives, and I let him. You didn't let him, Ollie said firmly. You didn't know what he was doing. I should have known. I should have looked harder for her. I should have— Mr. Weston. A doctor in a white coat approached them, a tablet in her hands. I'm Dr. Patel. I've been overseeing Ms. Dalton's admission. Caleb shot to his feet. How is she? What's wrong with her? Dr. Patel's expression was professional but kind. Miss Dalton is suffering from advanced pneumonia, complicated by malnutrition and severe anemia. Her immune system has been compromised by prolonged stress and inadequate nutrition. Frankly, I'm surprised she's been able to function at all in her condition. Can you treat her? Ollie asked, her voice small. Yes, Dr. Patel said, and Ollie felt like she could breathe again. With proper antibiotics, IV nutrition, and close monitoring, she should make a full recovery. It will take time. We're talking weeks, possibly months of treatment and rest. But she's going to be okay. If you're relieved right now, show this story some love with a like. And tell us in the comments, what do you think about Richard Crane lying to Maya all those years ago? Do you think he'll face consequences? Drop your predictions below. Ollie's eyes filled with tears. She's going to be okay? She's going to be okay, Dr. Patel confirmed with a gentle smile. We've moved her to a private suite on the 4th floor. She's resting now, but you can see her shortly. Caleb's relief was visible. Whatever she needs, specialists, medications, private nurses, money is no object. I've already flagged her as VIP care, Dr. Patel said. She'll have the best of everything, but right now, what she needs most is rest and time to heal. After the doctor left, Caleb sat back down heavily, like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He put his face in his hands, and Ollie saw his shoulders shake. She's going to be okay, he whispered. She's going to be okay. Ollie didn't know what to do, so she just sat beside him, while he cried silent tears of relief. When Caleb finally composed himself, he looked at Ollie with red-rimmed eyes. There's something else we need to discuss. Something important. What? Caleb took a deep breath. DNA testing, to confirm that I'm your biological father. Ollie frowned. But we already know, don't we? The timeline matches. You and Mom were together, and— We believe it, Caleb interrupted gently. And I believe it in my heart. But legally, we need proof. If I'm going to help you and your mother, if I'm going to set up trust funds, make medical decisions, add you to my insurance, establish custody arrangements, I need official documentation. Ollie felt something cold settle in her stomach. Custody arrangements? Not to take you away from Maya, Caleb said quickly. Never that. But to make sure that if something happens, you're protected. That you have legal rights to my estate, that no one can challenge your place in my life. Who would challenge it? Caleb hesitated. My mother, for one. She never approved of Maya. When she finds out about you— He stopped, then started again. And then there is Richard. If he's been lying to us for 11 years, he's not going to be happy when the truth comes out. He'll do whatever he can to discredit us, to make it look like Maya is a gold digger, or that you're not really my daughter. Ollie understood then. You want the DNA test to protect us, Yes, and Caleb looked uncomfortable. I need to know for sure. Not because I doubt it, but because after 11 years of not knowing, after missing your entire childhood, I need that certainty. I need to see it in black and white. Do you understand? Ollie nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I do. So you'll do it? The test is simple, just a cheek swab. Results usually take a few days. Okay, Ollie said, but only if it helps protect Mom. I don't care about money or estates or any of that. I just want to make sure nobody can hurt her again. Caleb's expression softened. You really are her daughter. She always put others first, too. A nurse came by shortly after and administered the DNA test. A quick swab of Ollie's cheek and one of Caleb's. The samples were labeled and sent to the lab, and just like that, it was done. They were sitting in silence again when Caleb's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his entire body went rigid. What is it? Ollie asked. Caleb stared at his phone, his face pale. A text. From Richard Crane. What does it say? Caleb's hand was shaking as he held up the phone so Ollie could see the message. Heard you had an interesting visitor today. A child, asking questions about the past. Some things are better left buried, Caleb, for everyone's sake. We should talk before you do something you'll regret. Ollie felt ice run down her spine. How does he know I was there? He has contacts everywhere, Caleb said, his voice low and dangerous. Security companies, information networks. If someone at my mansion told the wrong person that a young girl showed up asking about Maya Dalton, he trailed off, his jaw clenched. What are you going to do? Caleb typed something on his phone, deleted it, typed again. Finally, he put the phone away without sending anything. Nothing, he said. Not yet. Right now, I need to focus on you and Maya. But soon, his expression turned cold, harder than Ollie had ever seen it. Soon, Richard Crane is going to answer for what he's done, and I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone I love again. Before Ollie could respond, Dr. Patel returned. Ms. Dalton is awake and asking for both of you. Would you like to see her? Yes, Caleb and Ollie said in unison. They followed the doctor to the 4th floor, to a private suite that looked more like a hotel room than a hospital. Maya was in the bed, connected to IV lines, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been in months. When she saw them, she smiled weakly. Hey, baby, she said to Ollie. Then her eyes moved to Caleb. Thank you for everything. Caleb crossed the room and took her hand carefully, mindful of the IV. You never have to thank me. Not for this, not for anything. They were having a moment, and Ollie was about to excuse herself when Dr. Patel cleared her throat. Before I leave you alone, she said, holding up an envelope, I have something else. The lab rushed the DNA results at Mr. Weston's request. They just came back. The room went completely silent. Caleb and Maya stared at the envelope, then at each other, then at Ollie. Would you like me to read them? Dr. Patel asked gently. Caleb's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it automatically, and his face went white. He held it up, and Ollie saw another message from Richard Crane. Some things are better left buried, Caleb. The hospital room fell silent, except for the soft beeping of Maya's monitors. Dr. Patel stood holding the envelope containing the DNA test results, looking between the three people whose lives were about to be forever changed by whatever was written on that piece of paper. Caleb's phone buzzed again with another message from Richard, but he silenced it without looking. His eyes were fixed on the envelope, his face pale, his hands trembling slightly at his sides. Maya sat up straighter in the hospital bed, reaching out to take Ollie's hand. "Whatever it says," she whispered to her daughter, "it doesn't change anything. You're still my baby." But Ollie knew that wasn't entirely true. If that envelope confirmed what they all suspected, everything would change. She'd have a father, a family, a future that looked nothing like the life she'd known for 11 years. "Would you like me to read it?" Dr. Patel asked gently. "Yes," Caleb said, his voice hoarse. "Please, Patel opened the envelope carefully and pulled out a single sheet of paper. Her eyes scanned the document, and a small smile crossed her professional features. "According to the DNA analysis conducted by our certified laboratory," she read aloud, "the probability of paternity between Caleb Weston and Olivia Grant is 99.99%. This result provides conclusive evidence that Caleb Weston is the biological father of Olivia Grant." The words hung in the air like a bomb that had just detonated. "Now that the truth is confirmed, we want to know, if you were in Caleb's position, would you forgive Maya for keeping this secret for 11 years? Or would it be too hard to move past? Drop your thoughts in the comments below." We read every single one. Ollie felt her knees go weak, even though she'd known, even though the math had added up, even though she'd seen the resemblance in the mirror. Hearing it stated as scientific fact made it real in a way nothing else had. Maya let out a sob, covering her mouth with her free hand. Tears streamed down her face. And Caleb looked like he'd been struck by lightning. He stared at the doctor, then at the paper, then at Ollie. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. His eyes filled with tears that spilled over and ran down his cheeks. "She's mine," he whispered. "She's really mine." "Yes, Mr. Weston," Dr. Patel said softly. "Congratulations. You have a daughter." The word, daughter, seemed to break something in Caleb. He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees in front of Ollie, taking both her hands in his. "Ollie," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "My daughter. My daughter." Ollie looked down at this powerful man kneeling before her, crying openly, holding her hands like she was the most precious thing in the world. And suddenly, all the confusion and fear and uncertainty of the past day crystallized into one overwhelming feeling. She had a father. After 11 years of wondering, of feeling incomplete, of watching other kids with their dads and feeling that hollow ache in her chest, she finally had a father. "Dad," she whispered, testing out the word. Caleb's face crumpled completely. He pulled Ollie into his arms and held her like he was afraid she might disappear. "I'm so sorry," he sobbed into her hair. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I missed your first steps and your first words and your first day of school. I'm sorry you grew up thinking you didn't have a father. I'm sorry for all of it." "It wasn't your fault," Ollie said, her own tears soaking into his expensive suit jacket. "You didn't know." "But I should have known. I should have found you. I should have—" "Caleb." Maya's voice cut through his spiral. When he looked up at her, she was crying too. "Stop, please. This wasn't your fault. It was mine." "Maya, no. Let me say this." Maya's voice was stronger now, though still weak from illness. "I should have tried harder to reach you. I should have questioned what Richard told me. I should have fought for us instead of running. I kept your daughter from you for 11 years because I was too proud and too scared to face the possibility that you might reject us. That's on me, not you. You were lied to, Caleb said fiercely. We were both lied to. And the person responsible for that is going to answer for what he did. As if summoned by the words, Caleb's phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call. He pulled it out and looked at the screen. Richard Crane, he said, his voice cold. Don't answer it, Maya said quickly. Oh, I'm answering it. Caleb stood up, his expression transforming from tearful father to something much harder, much more dangerous. In fact, I think it's time Richard and I had a face-to-face conversation. He answered the call and put it on speaker. Caleb, Richard's smooth voice filled the room. I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk about this situation. Situation? Caleb's voice was ice. Is that what you're calling it? I heard a young girl showed up at your mansion today, making claims about the past. About Maya Dalton. Richard's tone was carefully neutral, but there was an edge to it. I wanted to warn you to be careful. People like that, they see a wealthy man and they think, People like what, Richard? Caleb interrupted. My daughter? Silence on the other end. That's right, Caleb continued. My daughter. I just received the DNA test results. 99.99% match. Olivia Grant is my biological child. The daughter Maya was carrying 11 years ago when you told her I'd moved on. When you told her I called her a mistake. When you drove her out of my life with your lies. Caleb, I can explain. Then explain. Right now. With Maya and Ollie listening. Tell them exactly what you did. More silence. Then, carefully, this isn't a conversation to have over the phone. Let me come to the hospital. We can discuss this privately. No, Caleb said. You're going to explain right now, or I'm going to the board tomorrow morning with everything I know. And then, I'm going to the police. Fraud. Harassment. Interference with family relations. I'll find every charge that applies, and I'll make sure they all stick. You're being emotional, Richard said, his smooth facade cracking. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in 11 years. Caleb's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Talk. Now. A long pause. Then Richard sighed, a sound of resignation. Fine, yes. I interfered. I kept you apart. Maya gasped. Ollie felt her mother's hand tighten around hers. Why? Caleb demanded. Because you were about to throw away everything we'd built. Richard's composure was crumbling now, his voice rising. You were the face of the company, Caleb. The golden boy, CEO. You were supposed to marry someone from the Hastings family. Their daughter was perfect for your image. Old money, society connections, the works. But you were obsessed with some waitress who would have dragged you down to her level. Her level? Caleb's voice was deadly quiet. Yes, her level. She was nobody, Caleb. No family, no money, no connections. Dating her made you look weak. It made the company look weak. So yes, I did what I had to do to protect our interests. What exactly did you do? Caleb pressed. Richard laughed bitterly. Everything. I changed your phone number and didn't tell her. I intercepted her emails and texts. When she showed up at the office pregnant, I told her you'd moved on, that you were engaged, that you'd called her a mistake. I offered her money to leave town and never contact you again. And when she refused the money? Maya asked, her voice shaking. I told her that if she tried to reach Caleb again, I'd make sure she never got near him, that I'd have her arrested for harassment if necessary. that she'd only embarrass herself and make you hate her. Richard sounded almost proud of himself. And it worked. She left. You moved on. The company thrived. For 11 years, everything was perfect. Perfect! Caleb's voice was barely controlled rage. You destroyed my family. You kept me from my daughter. You condemned Maya and Ollie to poverty, while I had more money than I could ever spend. You stole 11 years of their lives from me. How is any of that perfect? I did what was necessary for the business. The business? Caleb shouted. I don't give a damn about the business. You took everything that mattered from me. Oh, please, Richard scoffed. You would have gotten over her eventually. You would have married someone appropriate, had children with the right kind of woman, built the right kind of life. I saved you from making a terrible mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you. Caleb's voice went cold again. Here's what's going to happen, Richard. You're going to resign from the company effective immediately. You're going to sell your shares back to me at market value. And you're going to sign a statement confessing everything you just said. You can't force me to. Yes, I can. Because if you don't, I'll expose you. To the board. To the press. To everyone. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. How you manipulated me. How you lied to a pregnant woman and condemned her to poverty. How you kept a father from his daughter for 11 years. And then I'll sue you for every penny you have. You're overreacting. Get out of my life, Richard. Caleb's voice was final. Get out of my company. Get out of my family's lives. You stole 10 years from us. You don't get to touch our future. Caleb, be reasonable. I'm done being reasonable. I have a lawyer on retainer who's very good at making problems disappear. Either you disappear voluntarily, or I'll make it happen. Your choice. Caleb ended the call before Richard could respond. The room was silent except for Maya's quiet crying. Ollie stared at her father, because he was her father now, officially and completely, and saw the cold, calculating CEO everyone said he was. But she also saw how his hands shook, how his jaw was clenched so tight it must hurt, how the fury in his eyes was mixed with grief. I'm sorry you both had to hear that, Caleb said quietly. Don't be sorry, Maya said through her tears. I needed to hear it. I needed to know. She stopped, taking a shaky breath. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. That you didn't abandon us, that everything I believed for 11 years was a lie. It was all lies, Caleb said, crossing back to her bedside. Every word he told you was a lie. I never stopped wanting you. I never stopped looking for you. And if I'd known about Ollie... He looked at his daughter, and fresh tears filled his eyes. Nothing could have kept me away. Nothing. Maya reached for his hand. I know that now, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't fight harder. I'm sorry I believed the lies. I'm sorry I kept Ollie from you. We both have things to be sorry for, Caleb said. But we also have the rest of our lives to make up for it. If you'll let me. If you'll both let me be part of your family. Ollie looked at her mother, then at her father. These two people who'd loved each other and lost each other and found each other again after 11 years of lies and pain. We're already a family, Ollie said. The DNA test just made it official. Caleb smiled through his tears. My daughter, he said again, like he couldn't say it enough. My brilliant, brave, incredible daughter. And in that hospital room, surrounded by machines and medicine, and the faint smell of antiseptic, a family that had been torn apart by lies finally began to heal. For 3 days, Everything seemed to be getting better. Maya's color improved. Her breathing became easier. The doctors reduced her oxygen support, and she was able to sit up in bed without help. She even managed to eat solid food, real meals, not just broth and crackers. Ollie spent those 3 days in a strange, hopeful daze. She slept in a cot that Caleb had brought into Maya's hospital suite, refusing to leave her mother's side. During the day, she'd sit by the window doing homework, while Maya rested and Caleb worked on his laptop, making calls to restructure his business so he could spend more time with them. It felt almost normal, like they were already a family. Caleb brought Ollie new clothes, things that actually fit, things that weren't worn thin from too many washings. He bought her books and art supplies and asked her about school and her favorite subjects. He listened when she talked, really listened, like every word she said mattered, and Maya watched them with tears in her eyes, seeing her daughter finally have what she'd always deserved, a father who loved her. "I could get used to this," Ollie said on the third afternoon, sitting cross-legged on her cot, while Caleb taught her how to play chess, using a travel set he'd picked up from the hospital gift shop. "Good," Caleb said, moving his knight, "because I'm not going anywhere, ever again." Maya smiled from her bed. "You two are going to spoil me, you know. All this peace and quiet. I might forget what worry feels like." "That's the idea," Caleb said, glancing up at her with such tenderness that Ollie felt her chest tighten with happiness. For the first time in her 11 years, Ollie could see a future that looked like more than just survival. She could see birthday parties with both parents. She could see holidays and family dinners. She could see her mother, healthy and laughing. She could see herself in a home that didn't smell like mold, going to a good school, maybe even going to college someday. She could see everything she'd never dared to dream about. That night, Ollie fell asleep on her cot, feeling more peaceful than she could ever remember. She woke to chaos. Alarms were blaring. Maya's monitors were screaming warnings. Nurses rushed into the room, followed by doctors, all moving with urgent efficiency around Maya's bed. "What's happening?" Ollie scrambled off her cot, her heart pounding. "Mom!" Caleb was already on his feet, trying to get close to Maya, but a nurse gently pushed him back. "Sir, please step aside. We need room to work." "What's wrong with her?" Caleb's voice was rising. "She was fine. She was getting better." Dr. Patel appeared, her face grave. "Her fever spiked. She's going into septic shock. The infection spread to her bloodstream. We need to move her to intensive care immediately." "No!" Ollie tried to push past the nurses, but Caleb caught her, pulling her back. "Let them work," he said, but his voice was shaking. "Let them help her." Ollie watched in horror as they transferred her mother to a different bed, a mobile one bristling with equipment. Maya's eyes were closed, her face gray, her breathing rapid and shallow. She looked like she was dying. "Mom!" Ollie screamed. "Mom, please!" But Maya didn't respond. She didn't even seem to hear. They wheeled her out of the room at a run, Dr. Patel shouting orders to the medical team. The door swung shut behind them, and suddenly the room was silent, except for Ollie's ragged breathing and the distant sound of the alarms fading down the corridor. Ollie stood frozen, staring at the empty bed where her mother had been just moments ago. The sheets were still rumpled. Her mother's cardigan was still draped over the chair. "This is my fault," Ollie whispered. "What?" Caleb turned to her, his face pale. "This is my fault!" Ollie's voice rose to a shout. "If I hadn't gone to your mansion, if I hadn't brought you to our apartment, If I hadn't made her come to the hospital, she would have been fine. She was fine before I— Ollie, stop. Caleb knelt in front of her, gripping her shoulders. This is not your fault. Do you hear me? None of this is your fault. But she was okay. She was managing. And then I dragged all this up and now she's— Ollie couldn't finish the sentence. She couldn't say the word dying. She wasn't okay, Caleb said firmly. She was dying, Ollie. Slowly, quietly, in that apartment. The doctors said she'd been sick for months. If you hadn't come to find me, if you hadn't gotten her here, she would have died in that apartment with no one to help her. But what if coming here made it worse? What if the stress of seeing you again— Stop! Caleb pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. You saved her life by bringing her here. Whatever happens now, at least she has a fighting chance. And she has us. She's not alone anymore. Ollie sobbed into his shoulder, her whole body shaking. I can't lose her. She's all I've ever had. You're not going to lose her, Caleb said, but his voice was thick with tears. We're not going to lose her. I won't let that happen. But even as he said it, Ollie could hear the fear underneath. He didn't know if Maya would survive. None of them did. They waited in the intensive care unit's family room, a small, sterile space with uncomfortable chairs and fluorescent lighting that hurt Ollie's eyes. Hours crawled by. Nurses came and went, their expressions carefully neutral, giving no hint of what was happening behind the closed doors. Caleb paced. He made phone calls. He barked orders at his assistant about work things Ollie didn't understand. But mostly, he paced. Ollie sat curled in a chair, hugging her knees to her chest, watching the clock on the wall tick forward with agonizing slowness. Finally, Dr. Patel emerged. Her scrubs were rumpled, her face exhausted. She's stable, she said, and Ollie felt like she could breathe again. But it was close, very close. The infection triggered septic shock, which caused her blood pressure to drop dangerously low. We've got her on multiple antibiotics and vasopressors to support her blood pressure. She's unconscious right now, but her vitals are improving. Can we see her? Caleb asked. Dr. Patel nodded. For a few minutes, but she won't be able to hear you. That's okay, Caleb said. I need to see her. They followed Dr. Patel through a maze of corridors to a room filled with beeping machines and blinking monitors. Maya lay in the center of it all, connected to what seemed like a dozen different tubes and wires. She looked impossibly small and fragile. Caleb walked to her bedside like he was approaching something sacred. He took her hand carefully, mindful of all the medical equipment. Maya, he said softly, I don't know if you can hear me, but I need to say this. His voice broke, and he had to stop and compose himself before continuing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. I'm sorry you had to raise our daughter alone. I'm sorry you got sick and scared and thought you had no one to turn to. I'm sorry for all of it. Tears streamed down his face. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. Do you hear me? I'm not leaving you again. Not for work, not for money, not for anything. If you survive this, when you survive this, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I'm going to give you and Ollie everything you should have had all along. A real home, security, love, family. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Please, don't leave me again, he whispered. Please. I only just got you back. I can't lose you now. I won't survive it. Ollie watched her father cry, and something inside her shifted. This wasn't the cold CEO everyone talked about. This was a man who'd lost everything once and was terrified of losing it again. She stepped forward and took Maya's other hand. "Mom," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I know you're tired. I know you've been fighting for so long. But you have to keep fighting, okay? Because we have plans now." She swallowed hard, forcing herself to keep talking. "We're going to move into a real house, with a backyard and my own bedroom. Caleb, Dad, he promised. And you're going to get healthy, and we're going to have family dinners every night. And maybe we'll get a dog." "I've always wanted a dog." Her voice cracked, but she pushed on. "And we're going to celebrate birthdays, real birthdays, with cakes and presents, and holidays. And we're going to take trips to places we've only ever read about in books. And I'm going to go to a good school, and you're going to watch me graduate, and walk me down the aisle someday when I get married." The tears were flowing freely now. "But none of that happens if you give up, Mom. So you have to fight. You have to come back to us. Because you asked if you still have a place in our lives, and the answer is yes. You do. You always will. We need you. I need you. Please, Mom, please don't go." They stood there together, father and daughter, holding Maya's hands and willing her to live. The machines beeped steadily. The monitors tracked her vital signs. And somewhere in that unconscious place where Maya existed, maybe, just maybe, she heard them. More hours passed. Ollie fell asleep in the chair beside Maya's bed, her hand still holding her mother's. Caleb refused to leave, sitting vigil on the other side, watching Maya breathe. Dawn was breaking outside the window when Maya's fingers twitched. Caleb sat up straight. "Maya?" Her eyelids fluttered. Once, twice, then, slowly, painfully, they opened. "Ollie," Caleb said urgently. "Ollie, wake up! She's waking up!" Ollie jerked awake, disoriented for a moment before she saw her mother's eyes, tired and confused, but open and aware. "Mom!" Ollie gripped her hand tighter. "Mom, you're awake!" Maya's gaze moved slowly from Ollie to Caleb, then back again. She opened her mouth, but her voice was barely a whisper, hoarse from the breathing tube they'd removed. "Did I die?" "No," Caleb said, his voice thick with emotion. "No, you didn't die. You're here. You're alive. You're going to be okay." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She looked at them both, at the man she'd loved and lost and found again, and at the daughter who'd saved them all. "Do I still—" She had to stop and take a breath. "Do I still have a place in both your lives?" Ollie and Caleb looked at each other, then back at Maya, and they answered in perfect unison, their voices strong and certain. "You always did." Maya's face crumpled with relief and joy. She squeezed both their hands as hard as she could, which wasn't very hard at all, but it was enough. "Family," she whispered. "Family," Caleb agreed, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "Family," Ollie echoed, resting her head against her mother's shoulder. And in that hospital room, as the sun rose over the city, a family that had been torn apart by lies and kept apart by fear finally came home to each other. 3 weeks later, Maya was discharged from St. Catherine's Memorial Hospital. The doctors had been clear. She still needed rest, regular monitoring, and months of rehabilitation. But the worst was over. The infection had been defeated, her strength was slowly returning, and the color had come back to her face. "Are you sure about this?" Maya asked as Caleb helped her into his car. a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than she'd earned in her entire life. "About what?" Caleb asked, settling into the driver's seat. "Taking me to your house. It's a lot. You don't have to—" "Maya." Caleb turned to look at her, his expression gentle but firm. "You're not going back to that apartment. Not while you're recovering. Not ever, actually. I had movers pack up your things yesterday. Everything you and Ollie owned is already at the mansion." Maya's eyes widened. "You what?" "I should have asked first," Caleb admitted. "But I was afraid you'd say no. And I couldn't let you go back to that place. Not when I have 20 bedrooms sitting empty." From the back seat, Ollie grinned. "He's been preparing for days, Mom. You should see your room. It's huge, and there's a library, an actual library, with thousands of books." Maya looked between them, her daughter, who looked healthier and happier than she'd been in years, and the man she'd loved and lost and somehow found again. "You're both impossible," she said, but she was smiling. "You'll get used to it," Caleb said, starting the car. The mansion looked different to Ollie this time. When she'd first walked through those gates 3 weeks ago, the estate had felt cold and empty. Beautiful, but lifeless, like a museum where nobody lived. Now, as they pulled up the long driveway, she saw the changes Caleb had made. The gardens had been opened up, no longer perfectly manicured, but allowed to grow a little wild, a little natural. Wind chimes hung from the trees, their soft music filling the air. The fountain that had been still and silent now bubbled with life. And when they entered the mansion, warmth greeted them. The staff, a housekeeper named Mrs. Chen and her husband, who managed the grounds, welcomed them with genuine smiles. The entrance hall, once cold and imposing, now had fresh flowers in every corner. Sunlight streamed through windows that had been opened, filling the space with light and air. "Welcome home," Caleb said, and for the first time, the mansion actually felt like one. The first few days were awkward. Caleb didn't know how to be a father. He tried. God, he tried. But 11 years of missed experiences couldn't be made up overnight. He asked Ollie what she wanted for breakfast, and panicked when she said, "Just whatever," not knowing what 11-year-old girls normally ate. He bought her a phone and then had to ask her to teach him how to text. He attempted to help with her homework and discovered that middle school math had changed dramatically since he'd been in school. But he kept trying. He drove Ollie to her new school, a private academy with small classes and teachers who actually cared. He attended the parent-teacher conference and listened with fierce pride as her teachers praised her intelligence and determination. He learned to braid her hair, badly, but she wore it anyway. He asked about her day and listened to the answers like they were the most important thing he'd ever heard. And slowly, awkwardly, they figured it out together. "You're doing great, you know," Maya told him one evening. She was sitting in the library, wrapped in a soft blanket, watching through the window as Caleb taught Ollie how to play basketball in the driveway. He was terrible at it, and Ollie was laughing so hard she could barely stand. "I have no idea what I'm doing," Caleb admitted, coming inside sweaty and disheveled. "None of us do," Maya said. "That's what being a parent is. You just keep showing up and hoping you don't mess it up too badly." Caleb sat down beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Did I? Mess it up, I mean." "No," Maya said softly. "You're doing exactly what she needs. You're being here. You're being present. That's all any kid really wants." One evening, after Ollie had gone to bed, Caleb found Maya standing on the back terrace, looking out over the gardens. The night air was cool, and stars were visible above the city lights. "Can't sleep?" he asked, joining her. Just thinking, Maya said, about everything that happened, about how different things could have been. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then, do you ever wonder, if we'd known back then, if someone hadn't interfered, would you have stayed? Maya turned to look at him. There's no world where I wouldn't have stayed, Caleb. I loved you. I never stopped loving you. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with years of lost time. I never stopped either, Caleb said quietly. Even when I thought you'd chosen to leave, even when I tried to move on, even when I built this entire life without you, you were always there. In every decision I made, in every empty room of this mansion, I kept your picture on the wall because I couldn't let you go. We lost so much time, Maya whispered. I know, and I can't give that back. Caleb took her hand. But I can give you the future, if you'll let me. Maya looked at him questioningly. I've been restructuring the company, Caleb said. Stepping back from day-to-day operations, hiring a CEO to run things while I take a more hands-off role. I've spent 11 years building an empire, and for what? So I could live alone in a mansion full of things that don't matter? He turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. I don't want that life anymore, Maya. I want the life I should have had. The one with you and Ollie. The one where I come home for dinner every night and help with homework and argue about what movie to watch. The one where I get to see my daughter grow up and my... He stopped, his voice catching. Your what? Maya prompted gently. The one where I get to spend every day with the woman I love, Caleb finished. Not as your benefactor, not as someone who's just helping you out, but as your partner, your equal, your whatever you'll let me be. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Caleb, I've set up a trust fund for Ollie, full college tuition, living expenses, everything she'll ever need. And I've established accounts in your name. Not charity, but what should have been yours all along. The life we should have built together. I'm not trying to buy your affection, Maya. I'm trying to give back what was stolen from us. I don't need your money, Maya said, but her voice was gentle, not angry. I know, you never did. That's why I fell in love with you in the first place. Caleb smiled through his tears. But I do need you, both of you. This mansion has been empty for 11 years. It's not a home without you in it. Maya was crying openly now. You're asking me to stay. I'm asking for more than that. Caleb squeezed her hands. I'm asking you to build a life with me, a real one. With arguments about whose turn it is to do the dishes and fights about how to discipline our daughter, and all the messy, beautiful, ordinary things that make a family. I don't want to be the billionaire in the mansion. I want to be the man who comes home to you. Yes, Maya whispered. Caleb blinked. Yes, yes, you impossible man. Yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll build a life with you. Yes, to all of it. Maya was laughing and crying at the same time. I spent 11 years trying to convince myself I didn't need you, that we were fine on our own. But we weren't fine. We were surviving. And I'm tired of just surviving. I want to live. Caleb pulled her into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. I love you, he said into her hair. I never stopped. I never will. I love you too, Maya said. Always. They stood there in the darkness. Two people who had been torn apart by lies and brought back together by truth. Finally. Home. The next morning, Ollie woke to find something different in the entrance hall. The photograph of her mother, the one that had started everything, was still there. But next to it now hung a new frame. This one showed the three of them together, taken just last week in the garden. Caleb had his arm around Maya, who was laughing at something off camera, and Ollie stood in front of them, smiling so wide her face hurt. They looked like a family. No, they were a family. "Do you like it?" Caleb's voice came from behind her. Ollie turned to see both her parents standing there, Maya leaning on Caleb for support, both of them watching her with expressions full of love and hope. "I love it," Ollie said. "The mansion doesn't feel empty anymore." "That's because it's not," Maya said. "It's full now, full of all the things that matter." "Like what?" Ollie asked, though she already knew the answer. Caleb smiled. "Like family, like love, like second chances we never thought we'd get." That afternoon they stood in the garden together, Caleb, Maya, and Ollie, under the trees where wind chimes sang their gentle songs. There was no formal ceremony, no official pronouncements, just the three of them, making promises to each other. To be there, to be present, to be a family, messy and imperfect, and real. Mrs. Chen had prepared a special dinner, and they ate together at the big dining room table that had sat empty for years. They talked and laughed and made plans for the future, trips they'd take, holidays they'd celebrate, ordinary Tuesdays they'd spend together. Later that night, Ollie stood at her bedroom window, her actual bedroom, with her own space and her own books and her own life that felt bigger and brighter than anything she'd imagined. She thought about 3 weeks ago, when she'd stood at those gates with nothing but desperation and hope. She'd come looking for help with her mother's illness. What she'd found was so much more. She'd found the truth about her father, not just his name, but who he was. A man who'd loved her mother enough to spend 11 years searching. A man who'd kept a photograph like a promise. A man who, when he learned he had a daughter, didn't hesitate to claim her as his own. She'd found the reunion of a broken love story, two people torn apart by lies and brought back together by fate and determination. She'd found a family that was never truly lost, only delayed. Ollie used to think unthinkable things were just fears, terrible possibilities that kept you awake at night, worrying about what might go wrong. Now she knew better. Sometimes the unthinkable is the miracle you never dared to imagine. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys like Ollie's. Before you go, we need to know, what was your favorite moment in this story? Was it when Ollie confronted Caleb at the mansion? When Maya and Caleb finally reunited? Or when the DNA results came back? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.